Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today, our guest streamer is Mattariii out of Ohio. He is a streamer with a focus on gaming and cultural commentary and debate reviews. He has been on the show before. He was, I don't know if you went by Too Dank at the time, possibly.
Yeah.
This was episode 124, A Knife in the Back, if you want to go back and watch that one. And now we're going to catch up with him again about, what is it, like 60, 70 episodes later. It's been a couple of years. You can find him streaming on kick.com/Mattariii and on X @_DeesNuts. The spelling is unique on some of these things, so you're going to want to look at, of course, links in the description below. And you wanted to mention one other podcast. I don't think I got the title of it that you're doing with a friend.
It's called Nimbo Stratosphere. The podcast is called Out the Pocket. But it's on the Kick channel, Nimbo Stratosphere.
I should write this down too.
On Kick at Mattariii with 3 eyes, and on Nimbo Stratosphere on the Out the Pocket podcast, and some of the other live streams we do.
I ran out of room on my paper. It's Out the Pocket podcast.
And hopefully we can add a link to the Nimbo Sphere Discord, because we're looking for new people to join, interesting conversations and, meet some cool people.
Absolutely. Yes. I'll get that from you. Probably after we're done, and then I'll join too.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Yeah. For sure, we can put it in the chat or whatever. Okay. We're going to get right back to our friend, Atari here in just a moment. For my part, would you kindly like, share, and subscribe? Always need more volunteer dreamers. I do video game streams Monday through Friday, most days, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific, and that's on YouTube and Rumble. I also broadcast to the X platform, but you can't comment there, so just leave a comment and I'll come back later and say hello. This episode is brought to you by ABC Book 9. It is the Literature and Curiosity of Dreams, Volume 2, part of a 2-volume set by a gentleman named Frank Seafield out of, I believe, 1865. The graphic will be on the screen there. Of course, all this and more at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com, including downloadable MP3 versions of this very podcast, so that you may take the wizard with you wherever you wander with or without Wi-Fi. And last but not least, if you would head on over to BenjaminTheDreamWizard.locals.com. It is free to join, attached to my Rumble account. You can donate, you cannot, but it's also one of the best places to contact me if you have a dream to share. That is enough out of me. Tari, thanks for coming back for another crack at it.
Glad to be here. I've been wanting to tell you about this dream since last time, but we said we were going to give it a little time, so we have a little breather in between.
Yeah, I do like to do that. I don't want to have to say the same guest over and over and over. People get bored by that. Yeah. But you give it a little bit of time. Everybody dreams, and especially if you're a dreamer who remembers their dreams, you're more likely to have another one that you might want to take a look at. We were speaking a moment ago. We talked for like an hour before we even got started. That's hilarious. You mentioned that you have 2 dreams. Hopefully we can get to that second one, at least a little bit, to touch on it, because you said it was more recent, semi-lucid, that it actually brought you out of sleep, which just opens the door to interesting discussion.
I had like 2 dreams, and 2 of them are actually like intertwined. They're one I had it a couple times, I think, when I was a lot younger, and that was one of the ones I initially told you about when I told you I had a couple of dreams, the first time, and I was telling you about the most recent kind of iteration I had of that dream, but I've also been trying to retrace the older dreams I had to try to remember some of the different details of like how it changed over time, and what made it so impactful the last time I had it.
For sure.
The other dream I had recently, I had a couple times. It was actually like one of the interesting main things. We don't have to talk about it now, but one of the interesting things about it was that I came out of it knowing that it was a dream, but I thought I had like woken up, I think, at one point, but I still hadn't, and it was kind of like a thing where there was like kind of an inception inside the dream where I was like kind of like pulling something out of a hat and constantly pulling like a hat out of a hat, if you could understand like how weird it was. And then that's when I was like, wait a minute, there's no way this is actually happening. Like, I was like, at some point these hats have to stop coming out.
Oh yeah. Well, you get two things there that fascinate me. I mean, the whole thing, but recurring dreams specifically, I love them. They're very interesting because because they come back over and over again. What is it about this thing that we've crystallized it into a particular visual representation, say, and why would it return and why would it change over time? So once you nail down some of that stuff, it's very, very interesting. It's like a light switch goes, oh yeah, that's what it is. That's why it works that way. But then the other category is just lucid dreaming in general, which I feel like I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around. If I ever had that experience, or if I had it more regularly, if I was a lucid dreamer, I could then explain it, but I don't, so I can't. I've had dreams I can remember, so I get that experience, but lucid dreaming is just a mystery to me. Like, what is it?
And there's a lot.
Go ahead.
It's like actually kind of scary that how many times I've had it. And I think I probably had it more when I was a kid, when I was younger.
Sure.
And if I could say like one particular thing I know happened a lot in those dreams is like I would jump and I wouldn't like touch the ground. Like I would be leaping for an extremely long time. Like it wasn't flying, but I was almost flying. Like whenever I jumped in a lot of these dreams. That's one of the main things I remember about them and how I knew they were dreams.
Did you ever play a game called City of Heroes? Does that sound familiar?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not. Was it a browser game or was it
It was a MMO, massively multiplayer, and it was based on the loosely based on the realm of superhero comics. That genre.
Yeah, I think I did. I'm not sure if it was. I think I did. I think it was. I think it might have been in the browser though. Like, if I did play it at all, I'm not sure if they had like a browser version of it.
They might have something like that.
I do remember.
A lot of games tried to branch out into different things, like card games and.
Yeah. Because when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of random desktop games, and some of them, you'd like Diner Dash. I don't know if you ever like seen like Diner Dash.
That does sound
like,
familiar.
Some of them, yeah, you download these clients, and they'd have like a bunch of just kind of like random games. Some of them were like normal games, but then every now and then you find one that have like a little like MMO or something, like City of Heroes on it. And I think I did play that one actually. In fact, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I might have had it on a disc.
I think originally when it came out, it was like post the height of popularity of EverQuest and WoW, and then City of Heroes kind of came out around that time, trying to capitalize on. Let's give someone a different genre of MMO to play. Well, the reason it came to mind.
Somebody bought me one of those.
The reason it came to mind is that there were, classic to comic books, there was a speedster class, you run really fast. There was a flying class, or class is the wrong word for it, but you had to pick, movement type in a way, just like you had to pick, I'm going to do melee or ranged attacks. And the other one was, well, how do you want to move around? What? And so speedster, flying, and then one of them was a Incredible Hulk style jump. It's like you can just jump really far, and it just reminded me of that, like Incredible Hulk style jumping City Heroes. When you were saying in your dream there, so all that to get around to the point.
Like, what was the phrase they had for Superman? They was like, faster than the speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, or something like that. Yeah,
and that was back in the day, because Superman, the original iteration of Superman, he could not fly. He could just jump. He could leap tall buildings. He had that incredible, and it was all about just incredible extensions of natural human abilities. And then he got into, well, he can fly, and his skin's bulletproof, and he's got laser eyes. All that stuff got added later, which fine. Today that's Superman. That's all those things have become classic.
He's probably the original superhero, I think. Because I think like there were some other like mass vigilantes before Superman, but I think Superman was the first, like, because he also didn't really. He didn't hide his identity necessarily. Like, he had an alternate identity, but he was like the first like superhero with just tons of like superpowers and abilities.
Oh, yeah. Because before that we had things like the Shadow, the Mask. What are some of the 1940? Dick Tracy. It was a lot more grounded, down to earth stuff, and then they started getting into, well, what if I got a tickle. Will not stop. That's okay. I think the first character that had, I may be wrong, but the first character that had supernatural powers, and I could be getting this completely wrong. The first one I'm aware of was, I think it was The Shadow. No, maybe it wasn't The Shadow. It's the one where he's in a purple suit and he's got the mask on. And what he did was like there was some mystical connection to esoteric, Eastern mysticism type of stuff, and that allowed him to do some superhuman things. There was a Billy Zane movie, and I don't know if it was
I think it was a Phantom or something like
The
that.
Phantoms.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Yeah, I think that might have been one of the first that had like supernatural powers.
Yeah.
And then we got into the whole, what if he was an alien and all this other stuff? Or what if there was an experiment with gamma rays? That was building on top of the whole nuclear bomb thing when we didn't know. We know it could give you cancer and make your skin fall off, but what if it didn't? What if it also gave you super... then we get the Toxic Avenger in the 80s, building on that theme. What if that theme went horribly wrong?
What if all the mutations weren't hazardous?
Right? I think there was a Simpsons episode. It might have been Treehouse of Horror where they're like, I'm going to roll around in nuclear waste. And they go to the doctors like, so do I have superpowers? No, you have cancer.
Yeah.
That was so good.
That was one of the funniest things about The Simpsons, yeah. It's like they had it in their little intro and everything too, I think. Like
Talk about predictions. That show's been crazy. We were talking about, I think it was off air a moment ago, South Park and how they're kind of prophetic. And that's another, see, I got all these ideas for books I'm probably never going to write, honestly. I'll get some of them done, but one of them I want to do is A Wizard's Guide to the Prophets of Science Fiction. And it's the ones that come to mind are Isaac Asimov and Frank Herbert. A lot of that 50s, 60s sci-fi genre was predicting, and one of the examples I give too, on a regular basis, the idea that every piece of current science fact was once science fiction. Someone had to imagine it in their mind before it could be built. And so I go to the example of Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry and the little communicators. What did we get in like 2006, 2007? The flip phone, the Razor. Kirk to Enterprise. I mean, we had a communicator finally, just like that. And so many other examples like that predicted things that would come in and largely inspired things that were going to be developed later because someone had to imagine it first. And then they're like, hey, we should build that. And I think we're going to need Asimov's rules for robots very soon.
What was that guy's name? Was it Huxley or the guy whoever wrote Brave New World?
I think Aldous Huxley. Yeah. And a lot of people get him confused with George Orwell. They're like, are we in Brave New World or are we in 1984? My answer is yes.
That's what I've been thinking a lot of recently. I was like, it's literally like we're in like both. Because especially a lot of the technology that he was thinking of in the Brave New World is actually kind of coming to pass, like surprisingly enough. Like,
well, especially the idea of Soma, the drug, and everyone was just gorked out on that. And that can be anything from social media as a drug or literally fentanyl and people being fentanyl zombies on the street. And the idea that governments or people didn't have to be tricked into it or have it forced upon them. They just did it naturally. Someone said, hey, you want to get high and feel good all the time? Oh, I sure do. And then they just do it. But I would also classify George Orwell's I just said it. 1984 as prophetic science fiction, because the idea of memory holding. There's very literal real world examples. Stealth edits on news articles. They publish one thing, they say it one way, and because they're in the back door with their own code, they can just go, we're going to change that headline and take out that sentence, and no one will ever know. Or what was it? I just saw an example recently where I think it's Disney's animated Robin Hood is on Amazon or something, and someone said they took out the beginning where there was a statement written on the screen in old-timey font, and it said, whenever the government gets oppressive, a hero arises to return, justice to the people, that kind of a thing. They took that out because why? Why did they take that out? I can speculate a lot of things. I think they don't want the smoke from accusations of you're fomenting riots or whatever, or encouraging criminal acts. But Robin Hood was an outlaw, and this is a fantasy story. And when the government gets oppressive, people start to fight back. And this is one story of how a nobleman came back from foreign wars and saw that his people were being treated poorly and said, I'm not standing for this. That's the whole point of the story.
and kind of in the same light, I think one of the big takeaways I know I always notice from like was it 1984
Mm.
is that the somebody I know actually has the moniker Goldstein on Twitter, and it's actually based off of the Goldstein in 1984
Mm.
because you know how they had the guy that they would put up on the screen that everybody hated, and everybody would just like they
Oh,
would
the 2
go and
minutes of
like
hate.
a
Yeah, yeah,
particular
yeah.
time of day, and this was the guy. He was like the evil guy that they would all like kind of unleash it upon, and they kind of blame everything on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're seeing that a lot nowadays too. Like
Yeah.
that you could use like certain whatever pick your political figure or celebrity or whatever, and everybody just kind of picks somebody to like pile all the hate upon all the things they don't like. They associate that person with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You look at the trends on X, and it's like, okay, who we hating today? Who's today's
Right?
focus of outrage? And it absolutely
Yeah.
does. Not
Yeah.
only that, but he also hit on a little lesser known and maybe more controversial ideas, but in his estimation, the way he saw it, his reflection of his society at the time, which I think remains true to today, is that no one is more zealous, more rabidly adherent, and socially controlling than the young women, young to middle, like, from teens to 20s to 30s or whatnot. Is that
Oh yeah.
if you get that group as social enforcers, you can do almost anything with that power. That's a power that exists and should I don't say should be directed or harnessed, but can be directed or harnessed depending. But if you get that group as social enforcers, you can get away with almost anything, and that's another, I think that's what we're seeing today too. I mean, without getting too political, but a lot of social trends and enforcement is all because they've got a big cohort of women that are like, this is the
Oh yeah, for
kind,
sure.
necessary, gentle, compassionate thing to do. They use all these, and there's more. There's trickery, deception, manipulation that works better on women, and other that works better on men. So, yeah. But as much
Yeah,
as men
cause
tend to be the ones in political power, women have social power far in
yeah,
excess. Um,
cause we all at the end of the day we're all unfortunately kind of ruled by our baser instincts. So like
mm,
we kind of automatically have this affinity to want to kind of please women. And in order to continue society, we gotta keep them happy.
Kind of need them
And
around. Yeah,
yeah, and unfortunately, they think they like, appealing to emotion is very easy,
it is. Yeah.
even just for us as a species, and they unfortunately happen to be a little bit more susceptible to that,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. Definitely for
And
better
that's
a
not
lot
to
of the
say
time.
men are immune. We get our
Yeah, exactly.
triggers
Yeah,
too. It's
yeah.
a very. I was thinking of something. I don't even know. I don't know where these thoughts come from. They're shower thoughts, but I have them all the time. And it was. I returned to this concept I'd had that why is there an ideal breakdown? Why are there social roles and norms that are different for men and women? It's what I came back to was a gaming analogy. The idea that men are, broadly speaking, tanks in this battle of the male female partnership against the natural world and against other enemy tribes or nations or people in your own community might want to hurt you. Doesn't matter at all levels. Men are tanks, and some of them are warriors, some of them are paladins, some of them are dark knights, the anti-paladin,
Right.
but it's that broader tank role. And then women tend to encompass every support class. They're healer, bard, shaman, just all of that stuff. And, what it is that women can't make better tanks than men. Men are just built to be tanks, but they need support. And the ideal combination is tank and support. I mean, every tank needs a healer, and every
Yeah.
healer needs a
Yeah.
tank, needs a meat shield,
I mean,
right?
and you're talking to a support main, so
There
yeah,
you
I
go.
totally understand what you
There
mean.
you go. Well, me too. I when I played games, that's very in touch with my feminine side. Say, I was always a cleric. I loved the shaman class in World War.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. EverQuest. I
Oh,
loved
nice.
I loved the bard class. I just wanted to run fast. I just love running fast in games or flying. If I can't fly, I want to run fast. It's all about movement. Yeah, tanks were always too slow and vulnerable, and they can't heal themselves. Oh
Yeah.
no, Paladin was an interesting combination of those two. with the self-healing thing. But they really did a number with Shadow Knights or what, because, okay, this is way off in the weeds, but who cares? The Paladin had Holy Touch. He could heal someone or heal himself to full health. Well,
Right.
the Death Knight or whatever had Shadow Touch, which is I'm healing myself by stealing your
Yeah.
energy. Now they didn't make it a full heal for the Shadow Knight, so you had to Shadow Touch or whatever multiple times. But it was
doing
it was an
damage too.
offensive self-healing, that's just genius. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so they did make some of the best, and I was always jealous of their ability to the feign death to get out of trouble. Oh, I can't defeat this guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm dead. You killed me. And then they turn out the healer. Oh, no, I'm running. Root. Try and cast the spells and run away. Anyway, well, what have you been playing lately on your channel?
The last thing I actually started playing, which I need to get back to because I took a bit of a break, but I started playing through my Devil May Cry collection.
Oh
they
shit!
came out
I
with
just did that.
a new adaptation. Yeah.
I just played 1, 2, and 3, and actually I quit.
Oh really?
I
Wow.
rage quit 3 at the very end. I could not beat that guy.
Yeah.
No shame.
gotta,
I was not up to the challenge. I just decided I was not going to beat my head against that brick wall anymore. I'd played all 3 up to the very end. It's not about me. Just go ahead. What's been your experience? You probably have better.
Oh no.
You
I'm
probably have
still
non-retarded
stuck on 1
thumbs.
right now.
Yeah.
I started playing 1 because the last thing I was playing, I've been kind of doing 2 games at once, so I'm still like in the middle of a playthrough on Mountain Blade Bannerlord.
I heard that one was good.
Yeah, it's really good. I started a kingdom, and the tough thing about it is like, I mean, once you start like the campaign with the actual story mode and everything, you gotta like once you declare your kingdom and declare that you're trying to like rebuild the empire, like they start this conspiracy against you, and once once the bar fills all the way for the conspiracy, like 3 nations at once declare war on you. So
Damn.
I beat out like the 2 of the nations that declared war on me. The other nation was like on the other side of the map, so they weren't really like engaging with me too much. So they're the only ones that's left. So I gotta finish that playthrough. But I was also playing Near Replicant, like the prequel to Nier Automata, because
I played Automata lately too. But is Replicant good? Would you recommend it or?
Yeah, it's pretty good. And I found out a lot about like the original game that it actually came from. Like, so I was playing like the remake of the original game. Now I kind of want to go back and play like the Drakengard games because apparently it was like a spinoff of those. Like the 5th ending of one of those games like ended up turning into Nier. But I'll probably go back and do that later. But I didn't want to jump right into Automata. And I wanted to try to stream something that was a bit more like relevant right now since Devil May Cry just came out with a new adaptation on Netflix. So I started playing through Devil May Cry collection, but I'm still on the first one right now, and because I took a break, I need to start again.
And did you get the HD collection?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
that's the one I played. Even then, the first one is it's a bit wonky and the graphics are old. You can tell. But by the time you get up to the third one, looks pretty good. My biggest problem with it was, I'm just bad at button mashing games that require timing and skill and hand-eye coordination and memory. All the things that make someone a good gamer. I got jack shit.
It's especially like for me, it's especially like when I'm streaming. It's like it's a little easier for me to like dial in and get like really in it when I'm like not live. But when I'm live and I'm playing, I realize it's a lot different because I'm trying to be like engaging. I don't want to be boring or anything. But also, like, I'm trying to figure stuff out. So, like, I didn't remember anything about the beginning of the game. And when I first started out, I was like hopping around trying to figure out like how to do something. And I figured out like I was trying to do it the complete wrong way. I think I wasted like 30 minutes on stream trying to figure out something.
Oh, shit, yeah. Well, I got 2 things. So here, I don't know if I can show you this here. Let's see how it shows up on camera. So this is the white balance is throwing it all off. It's not actually a blank page, but so I'll go ahead and put it down but on that page is a diagram of a controller and what all the buttons do. I do that for every single game because I can't remember shit.
I think I can see it. I can see it from like right there, but for some reason in the middle I can't see it.
Yeah. So what I did was I brought it into the frame. Like my frame is actually like like where is it? From here to here, and then from here to here. So only guests get to see the whole room out here. And now you can kind of see this one here. It's got that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see it. You can vouch. It's true. It's not a blank page. But the other thing is that, okay, so that's one thing. Is like, am I trying to do something with these buttons that, am I using the wrong buttons? Okay, I've been hitting X. Shit, it's B. Okay, B. I got to remember that. But the other thing, one of my biggest problems is games that make it difficult to understand what the hell you're supposed to do. And my frustration is, am I doing the right thing badly? Like I just need to keep at it, or am I perfectly executing the wrong strategy because that's not how it's supposed to work? Am I doing something attempting to do something impossible because that's not what they want me to do to solve this puzzle? And then I go and I look it up and I'm like,
this is why I've been starting to use more walkthroughs, because
I go to the walkthrough. Fuck it, no shame.
Yeah, I don't want to, especially when I'm live. I don't want to be sitting here trying to figure it out too long. Like if I'm on my own, I could probably do that, and even then, I'll probably end up looking it up.
At a certain point, it's
I
just
don't
not
have time
fun
to
anymore.
waste playing video games anymore. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like, I could probably do that more when I was a kid, but like nowadays, it's like if I play a game, I'm trying to get it done as fast as possible. I don't want to have to like stumble around too much. Like I want to have fun, but it's not really fun when you're frustrated trying to figure something out. So like, yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating enough to know what you're supposed to do, and you're just trying to kind of figure out the timing. Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating not to know the difference, and that takes me way back to. I mean, if you were a child in the 80s, early 90s, as I was, it was nothing. You either got a copy of Nintendo Power and hope it had a walkthrough and a guide and descriptions, or you had to call the hotline and talk to some 13-year-old kid that knew twice as much as you. It was like, oh yeah, you see, you just gotta jump up on this platform here. Okay, that's $1.99 a minute. No shit. That was
I caught the wave like
lot back then.
I caught the wave like right after that. Like there were a lot of games that definitely didn't have like any like walkthroughs or anything you could find like when I started out gaming and everything, but I think it's like by the time I really got into it, because I was so late to a lot of games, like there was already like like walkthroughs and all the cheat codes for a lot of stuff already, and that's all I needed to do. But
thank God for
I also
the
went back to a lot of those games, like I played them initially, I figured out a lot of the stuff, and then I happened to like go back to them, and then when I couldn't remember what I did, or I knew that there was some stuff I didn't unlock, then I would go for the walkthroughs and I'd be like, okay, like how do I get this? How can I accomplish this that I didn't get to accomplish like the first time I played the game? So like there's definitely like always some more, even like in older like Game Boy games, there's like a lot of stuff I didn't end up doing that I want to do. Like, old Pokemon you didn't catch, like those rare shiny Pokemon you couldn't catch. There's like a 1% chance of catching them in like one particular area. Like,
yeah, some of those things are just a matter of, are you willing to invest the time to hit the random number generator button 1,000 times if it takes that to get. So that's one reason why I've completely abandoned achievement chasing in games of like, I'm just not going to invest that amount of time. Lately, I just want to play. I used to really love the open world interactive nature of MMOs. It used to be, I wanted to see other people around. I wanted to get into groups and do interesting things. But lately in my life, I just tell me a good story. Just tell me a good story I can interact with, and maybe a little combat here and there to spice it up, but just don't bore me. So games that are like missing a decent story, I just skip it. I'm not interested in playing that.
That is the main reason I play games nowadays, is for a story. I think one of the few games I play that doesn't have much of a story is probably like Mountain Blade, like I mentioned. But the mechanics in the game are so fascinating. Like there's a heavy like feudal political bend to the game at the same time. So there's a lot of like politics inside the game that are like just make it like so very rewarding to play, because you actually learn a lot while you play it at the same time. Because even though the world doesn't work like that anymore, it's basically like somebody called it like a feudalism simulator. So.
Oh yeah, and that just reminded me of my playthrough of Witcher 3 a couple of years back. I actually got what is considered to be the the bad ending because I completely stayed out of all politics in the world. Like, I'm not interested in that. I'm here to kill monsters and do my thing, and you guys figure it out. And so because I skipped all of this, like I didn't go track down this sorceress that they wanted me to find because the king wanted her, had a bounty on her. So I was supposed to kill her and bring her head back, that kind of thing. I'm a witcher. You got to go fight this great evil. I'm like, well, I'm going to leave her alone. So just go do your own thing. And there was a plot to assassinate a king, and I had to either choose help it, stop it, or stay out of it. And I chose to stay out of it. So avoiding any world-changing decisions gave me the bad ending. And that's a very interesting little window into how the developers think the world works. It's like, if you have power and you don't make decisions, then other people will, and you're gonna get an ending that you didn't choose for yourself. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I didn't know it was a bad ending until someone told me, because what was it? Spoilers, but Siri went into some portal and never came out again. She went and she switched to some alternate world or went into some other dimension. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's sad. We don't get to see her again. But who knows that wasn't where she was supposed to be. She had a mission to go do, and everything I was doing was to get her to that point where she could cross through that portal. Who says that's the bad ending? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess who does say it's bad? I mean, I guess it just depends on how you play the game. Because if you play it a particular way, like I know one of my favorite games is Fallout. So there's always like a particular faction you can choose to end the game with or not end the game with. And I think with Fallout 4, I haven't even finished the game yet. And part of the reason is because I'm so particular about what faction I want to end the game with, and like if you join one particular faction and continue with them to a certain point, it cuts you off from like all of the other factions. So like, I'm also trying to gain particular perks from the one faction, like because I like to have my armor a certain way. So I'm trying to find like the loopholes. Like I'll follow their quest line up to this point so I can get what I want, but then I'm gonna switch to these guys so I can get inside their base, and then like I'm gonna switch to these guys. It's like, well, I still haven't figured out what I want to do.
There's some great reasons for that, because like there are some. If you want a game that is realistic is an interesting way to put it. It's all fantasy in that sense, but a realistic thing is if you make some decisions, it precludes other decisions. Fair enough. Yeah, you can't do both things at once when it's an either or situation. But then there's a what is it? It's also conveniently a bit tricky on the part of the developers, because they're like, hey, if you want to see these other endings, you're just going to have to play it more than once. Booyah. They're like, I'm not replaying a game just to see alternate endings. I'm like, I'll just, you know what I'll do? I'll go to YouTube and I'll like alternate endings and I'll just watch them. But I'm not playing a game twice. There's been a couple of games I have played twice. Very, very few. The BioShock series was one of them. I played the original and I played Infinite, but I never played Part 2. So this time I decided to go back and do the complete trilogy and play them in order. And it was good. BioShock really 2 good. Was also good. And then BioShock Infinite, I forgot so much about that game. If you give me 10 or 15 years, I'll forget everything and I can play a game like I've never seen it before. That's one of the few.
No, some games I'll forget that I even actually played them. Because they're just... There's, especially if I didn't like play through the rest of the series, like that's kind of how Devil May Cry was. Like I know I like started like the first one. I'm not sure if I like finished it entirely, but I know like the rest of the series I never got to. So I can like it's one of the things I like to do is like replay like the original to make sure I remember everything, to like refresh my memory and everything, and then I can get to the rest of the story that I like missed.
Yeah, that keeps me from playing some games because it's daunting. Say, I had a recent experience. I had just finished streaming Just Cause 3, and they're like up to Just Cause 6 or something now. And what daunts me is it's daunting looking at an entire series of like 6 games, and I'm like, am I going to spend the next 3 months of my life playing this one series of games? But it also doesn't sit right with me to say jump in at episode 3. and just start there. I'm like, because I don't know, because there's
Yeah.
backstory and lore, and there's a whole experience of watching the games develop over time and become something better or new or different. But
Yeah.
I got recommended. He's like, what kind of games do you like? I had a friend of mine, and I said, well, this type, action adventure, kind of like a little open world type of thing too. But I want a storyline I can follow, and he's like, you probably like Just Cause. I'm like, well, what's that about? He's like, nah, just play Just Cause 3. Just don't worry about the whole greater lore. It's its own self-contained
That's
thing.
exactly how I was. I
Yeah.
think I still have just the original Just Cause because I wanted to, or maybe Just Cause 2, can't remember, because I wanted to play them all. And then I think I tried to play it, and I
Some
was
of
like,
them are so bad. Well, I think
yeah.
what broke me of that in the beginning was when Witcher 3 was announced years ago. I was hyped. I'm like, this looks so good. And so in preparation for that, I bought the remaster of Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. And I made it maybe 25% of the way into Witcher 1. And I'm like, this is just terrible. This is, the controls are awful. And
Same thing recently.
Yeah.
I still have not started The Witcher yet. And I feel bad because I want to see the rest of it. I might have to watch someone else play it just to get the story.
Yeah.
I've resigned myself to that, and I'm gonna have to start from like 2 or something, or I don't know, because the controls I don't really like them at all.
They did a much better. I mean, Witcher 3 deserves the hype in my estimation. Really well crafted, beautiful visually, good fighting system, a lot more intuitive, a lot less crazy. What was I going to say? Oh, so that broke me of. I always have to play everything in the series just so I don't miss out on the lore and the experience. Like, I don't have time for that. So for you, I would just recommend skip 1 and 2. Read the Wikipedia page if you want to know what the plot was, and then. But
that's probably what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, but you can also just jump into 3 knowing absolutely nothing. You can say, okay, it's a medieval fantasy world. There's magic and monsters. I am a monster hunter. Go. Just experience it. Actually, you don't need to know anything more than that basic. What is a Witcher, and how does it work? So
yeah, I just found out about the Let's Plays recently too, so I might grab one of those because I do want to see like at least like the cutscenes and stuff. Like I want to know, like, 'cause I kind of want to be reminded of certain stuff. Like I do like playing through the series. I'm like that with like TV shows and adaptations and stuff too. Like before I watch the new Devil May Cry adaptation, I gotta watch the original anime adaptation myself, but I also want to play the game. So I'm giving myself extra work just so I can remember the story and everything.
It's true. Yeah. Well, and then it also. That was the other thing I was going to say too. Is you said with the Nier Automata and Nier Replicant, the prequel was actually made after, of course. But
the remake of the prequel was made after, ironically enough. Like I guess a lot of people just didn't know. Yeah, I thought it was too. A lot of people didn't know. I guess it mostly came out in Japan. It was called Nier in Japan, like Nier Gestalt or whatever, and then it came out here a long time ago as well. But like it just wasn't the same. And then when Nier Automata came out, it got like raving reviews and everything, and then they ended up remaking it.
Okay, so it was actually the game released before and story wise occurs before Nier Automata.
Yeah, it's just apparently it's like technically I guess they're not related at all. Like apparently it's like 2,000 years later, and the stories aren't like directly connected.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
That's the main difference. Yeah.
But set in the same world.
Yeah, it's set in the same world. Yeah. So, and apparently there are even older ones that it was based off of. Like I said, like some series.
Whoop! I lost you. Let me make a little note here.
I think we're good.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I hear you. I see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what just happened with Zoom, but it definitely just kind of switched everything off. Hopefully my headphones stay on. If they don't, I have some I can switch to if need be. So.
I got the timestamp too. I'll go ahead and cut all that out. No need for 5 minutes of dead air. Well, technical difficulties. Well, that may indeed have been the powers that be, the grand source of the universe, telling us get on with the dream stuff. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can't write with you doing that. You can't do that. Get up on my shoulder. Come here. Come be a shoulder cat. We'll see if she stays. Sort of. Okay, so as per my usual process, I'm going to shut up and listen. Our friend Mattariii here is going to tell us about his dream, and then we're going to try and figure it out together. So I am ready when you are.
Benjamin the Dream Wizard wants to help you pierce the veil of night and shine the light of understanding upon the mystery of dreams. Every episode of his Dreamscapes program features real dreamers gifted with rare insight into their nocturnal visions. New Dreamscapes episodes appear every week on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and other video hosting platforms, as well as free audiobooks exploring the psychological principles which inform our dream experience, and much, much more. To join the wizard as a guest, reach out across more than a dozen social media platforms and through the contact page at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com, where you will also find the wizard's growing catalog of historical dream literature available on Amazon, documenting the wisdom and wonder of exploration into the world of dreams over the past 2,000 years. That's Benjamin the Dream Wizard on YouTube and at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com.
All right. So it's gonna be a little tough because I started having these dreams a long time ago. So I'm gonna try to recall it as much as I can. So like kind of the first iterations of this dream I was having. Um, it's tough to remember how we got there. I do remember that the basically the main theme of this dream is kind of I ended up at a at an Indian reservation, like a kind of like a Native American reservation. Um, it's tough to remember exactly how I got there. I think in some because I had the dream multiple times, I think it was kind of different a couple of different times. But the main thing I do remember is that I think in one instance or a couple of instances it was like a school field trip, and we were I don't think we were intending to go to a reservation. I think it, or at least not a Native American reservation or anything, like more of a like kind of like a metro park or a just a like a national park or whatever, like a reservation for like nature, not necessarily natives or anything. But we were I don't, and we've never actually gone on, as far as I can remember, right? This is how often I was having this dream. I've never actually gone on any field trips in any school or anything that was like really out in nature,
Hmm.
as far as I can remember. So I don't remember actually going on any field trips like this or even similar to this. So, but I actually, it's hard for me to tell whether or not I have, because these dreams were so frequent that like I'm like having these memories of having these dreams as a kid, and I'm like, wait, did that actually happen, or am I just like imagining that this happened?
That can be tough.
So
Yeah. How old were
yeah,
you when you felt like when you had the first dream you can kind of remember, or roughly?
um, it's actually really hard to tell because I know. So one of the things that was most interesting about it, if I could start telling it a little bit about the dream,
Sure, sure.
um, there was like a cave we went into. The main interesting part about this the dream, and when it kind of shifted and became like an interesting dream, is so there was some kind of cave we went to. I'm not sure if the cave was actually like a place that we were intended to go to. From what I can remember, I kind of wandered into this place like on my own. Uh, and like I may have had somebody else with me. I don't think I had anybody else with me. Um, and one of the ironic things is there may have been other people there, but I may have not been supposed to go into where I went. And there may have been people that went into this like little cave or whatever before, because I mean obviously this is a dream, so it's not like that is actually the case. I'm
Yeah.
just assuming this about the dream because I found a Game Boy game that I hadn't been able to find for a very long time, that happened to be like on, I think like on the floor of this cave or on like the wall of this cave or something. And so like I actually I, I I love this game. It's one of my favorite Game Boy games. It's called Golden Sun. And I don't remember, because I played this game when I was such a young kid. Like I'm talking like elementary school age, uh, up until actually, I used to get emulators for it and everything too. So, but the last time I had it, had to be pretty young. I think because the last time I even had a Game Boy was like elementary school, sometime in elementary school because I broke it, so I didn't
Mm.
I didn't end up having it that long, but I still dreamed about it and thought about it after it was broken. Like I said, I played it on emulators and stuff since then and everything, but and I ended up getting like a DS and everything, but I never actually played it again until I think I was thinking maybe I think it was I think it was high school. Might have been high school or middle school by the next time I actually played the game because then I figured out that you could download emulators on a computer and play the
Mm.
game even if you
Yeah.
didn't, own it. um so I think it was when I was in elementary school. Maybe middle school, but I think it was still elementary school, maybe around like 5th or 6th grade or something. But like I
Okay.
said, we never had any field trips like this or anything. It was really kind of a weird dream. But so like one of the interesting things about it is that like I said the reservation we went to or whatever, or the reason I remember it as a reservation, right? I'm not even sure if it was supposed to be a trip to a reservation. I think it was really just supposed to be like a trip to like a park or whatever, like kind of like a metro park or whatever. We have metro parks in my area, like a lot of them actually. Um, and so it wouldn't be the first time that we maybe had a field trip to like maybe a metro park or like our zoo is named after the metro park as well, so
Mm.
it wouldn't be the first time we like had some kind of field trip like that. But this one was like distinctly, I remember one of the things I remember is that the road to travel there was on a highway that I traveled on like a lot as a kid, um like going back and forth from home and downtown. So like even if it's not like an actual route to an actual place, which for all I know, I might actually be dreaming about a place that exists. Um, there there wasn't any like real memories of going to any place like this, but there were some natives that I guess I ran into in this dream. So and I think this might have been after I found this random game that I lost, and the reason that I think that I'm just kind of speculating why I found it. I've always thought that the reason I saw this game in a dream is because I always was thinking about it, and I was so upset that because originally when I first played it, it was my cousin's game. It wasn't a game that I actually owned for a long time, but I think once I eventually got my own, Game Boy, and my parents took me to GameStop, I managed to find it in GameStop at one point, and I actually owned the game myself for a while. But I think I borrowed it from my cousin as well, and ended up having to give it back at some point as well. So you know, there were a lot of times where I wished that I could have played the game as a kid. Like I had other games to play and everything, but this is like the game I always wanted to go back and play,
Mm.
because it was just one of my favorite. It was a really rare gem that I kind of think is slept on to this day. But beyond that, after I found this area, and I think there might have been some other things in this little area of the cave that I found or whatever. That's just the most notable thing I can remember from the dream. I think I kind of explored like a little deeper into the cave, and then I ended up finding, I think, kind of like some artifacts and decorations and things, and then all of a sudden I end up, on basically like a reservation. Like I guess I crossed over into an area I wasn't supposed to be in and ended up on the reservation. And all of a sudden I'm in front of like this chief of this like tribe, and I'm talking and conversing with these people in his tribe, and like I was like, wow, like I didn't even know this was over here. I had no idea about any of this out here. But then like also, why was there a video game in their in their cave? like,
Yeah.
like has somebody been here before? Like, is this like not real? And this is one of those instances where like, the dream kind of becomes like somewhat lucid because like even as a kid, I'm just like, there's no way like I actually like, have this game. I think when I woke up, it's one of those times where you wake up and you can remember that you like found something that you wish you had, but then when you wake up, you don't have it. Like
Oh
I've
yeah.
had a lot of dreams like that where I make a lot of money or whatever, and then I wake up and it's like you don't have any money. And it's like
Yeah.
so it was one of those kind of dreams at the same time. But I do remember like I had it a couple times where we went to like some field trip to this area and I ended up in this cave and like different things always happen when I go into this cave, whatever. But one of the main things I remember is like running into this native tribe and then like talking to me and like teaching me little things about them. And I remember coming away from the dream like it's just like really, really weird. Have I ever actually been to this place before? And unfortunately because it was so long ago, that's the most I can remember about that particular iteration of the dream, right?
Gotcha. And then you said
But
it changed lately. So the dream came back, but it was different. What was the most recent one?
yeah, so the most recent one is ironically enough, it did not start out the same way at all. So like I was an adult, obviously. So it was actually kind of reflecting like me being at a completely different stage of my life. This is after like we talked about the things that happened with my ex earlier. So it was actually even after that point in my life.
Okay.
So it's back when I was after I'd moved out, wasn't living with my ex anymore, and I actually can't remember where I was to start out. I can't remember that in either of the iterations, like where exactly I was. I just know the in the original ones, it was some kind of field trip or maybe even like a family trip to like the park or something. But this one in particular, I can't remember where I was, but I met a girl, and a lot of the dream was actually focused around a girl this time. Uh, and this was not too long after I broke up with my ex. It might have been like maybe a year after, half
Okay.
a year after. Not extremely sure when it was. I just know it was after. But it was a decent amount of time after. Like I'd been single for a while, and I'd actually even had like another short relationship after that where we weren't exactly an item, but we were kind of dating for a little while. Um, and this girl, she was it's also typically not like what was I guess I would consider my type. I don't really have a type, but like she was either Native American or like Middle Eastern. Like she had like kind of like very brown skin, but not brown like mine, but like a lot more tannish.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
she also, from what I could see, like her features were definitely maybe a little closer to Middle Eastern, which is like what I'd say, like maybe not necessarily normally my type, definitely not what I'd normally say or think that I'm like interested in. So that was one of the interesting things about it. And I can't remember exactly where I was, where we met, but I do know like a big part of this dream was like and the way this dream started out was me meeting this girl and really hitting it off with this girl. And then I think I can't remember exactly if like I just randomly suggested we go to this place or we just ended up like going on a date or whatever. If I recall correctly, I think it was like her idea. Like she wanted to go somewhere, she wanted to show me something, and we end up going. And I'm like, wow, I know that. Remember, I told you that the paths to this place is always on like a familiar highway that I've traveled on like as a kid and everything, right, throughout my life, multiple different times. Um, so I was like, on the way there, I'm like, wow, like this this looks so familiar. Like I feel like I know where we're going, right? Like in the dream, I'm like, yeah, it's like I know where we're going. This is like how does she know this place, right? I think, and I'm thinking like, where are we going? Like I can't actually think in my head where it is we're going, but once we get there and everything, I'm like, oh wow, like I knew there was something familiar about that road, and like now we're back here and we're at this cave somehow, like so I'm like, oh, we're back at this cave or whatever, and she wants to like explore the cave or whatever. I was like, I remember this area, like we should go into this cave, whatever. Like I met this tribe and everything. Like I think I was telling her about like the tribe or whatever that I met and everything, and I wanted to show her, so we go through the cave and everything, but this time everything's different. Like it's it's basically just an empty cave for the most part, and there's like nothing there. And I'm like, wow, like I remember there being stuff here before. I remember there being like, this tribe here before and everything. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know where they went and everything. And then, we get to like the other side where, I ran into them and everything. And we get outside. So I guess in like basically the other side of the cave. And there's like a cookout going on. But it's not just any random cookout, apparently. It's like a cookout with family members and church members that I know, because I was extremely involved in church when I was a kid. My mom used to always make us go to church with her, and I used to have a lot of like church members that I knew their names, faces, everything, right? And there were like a lot of my family members there as well, like mostly my immediate family, but there were like family members there as well. And I was just like, wait, what's going on here? And it's like, I remember the girl that I didn't know, that I just like basically met. It was her idea to come here and everything. So like I have no idea, um which is, it's kind of ironic. Because I don't really go to church anymore, and I haven't been to too many family events in the last couple of years either. So, you know, it's not even as if I would know if they had like scheduled something and were supposed to be there. You know what I mean? It was that's
Yeah.
how random it was. It was like, yeah, I don't really, I didn't know that they were gonna be here. I didn't expect them to be here because I just I don't even really keep up that much with what everybody's doing. Like, I probably family stuff more than anything, but I'm probably more likely to know about some church stuff that's going on because a lot of time they'll ask me to come or show up, and I'll be like, no, I don't really want to. But
I'm kind of a
it
hermit
was
too. Yeah.
yeah, it was really weird though, because I was just like, what are the chances that they would be here? And it's kind of weird. And then like they're like, oh, hey, we didn't expect to see you here, obviously, and everything. And I'm just like, well, yeah, but I'm not alone, right? So I'm with this girl, and they're all like, so I'm like, well, I know these guys. So like, I'm like, I don't like. I was also sitting there thinking like where is the tribe? Like, when did this become like, like a picnic area? Like, did I just like imagine all that tribe stuff when I was here before? Because obviously, like, I'm in a dream, but like I said, I also don't know, like, ever if I've ever been to this place before. So like like in the dream, I'm like, was this a dream? It was kind of felt like Inception, like inside the dream, because I'm like, was this a dream? Was that dream? Like, it just is like a shift in the dream. Like, I kind of was noticing that like something wasn't right at this time, but also the main thing about the dream is that I was enjoying my time with this girl. Uh, so I kind of just kept went along with it and was like, well, I'm with this girl. This is my family. This is this church member. This is this church member. Hey, how you doing? You got meat and everything. They're eating and stuff. And then I go then like I go back into like the cave, and like the ironic thing is that this time when I go back into like the cave, it's like it's not really like a cave. It's got like a bunch of food and tables and stuff with like plasticware and and napkins and stuff, like everybody put all their stuff in the cave in like this like little area of the cave to to go back and get stuff for the cookout and everything. And I'm just like, wait, when did this all change? Like, did we not
Yeah.
walk past this when we came in here? Like the dream was like transforming before my eyes, and I was realizing like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? And so like it basically just continued like kind of like a good like night out, like a cookout party and everything. And one of the things I do remember is the main thing I take away from that dream is I actually woke up thinking about how much a good time I had with that girl, and I can't even remember um, fully how the dream ended. I know we kind of went our separate ways after, um, And because my family ended up being there or whatever, I think I ended up she ended up leaving on her own, and I just kind of stayed with them. Um, but it was uh it was really interesting because when I woke up, I was hurting a bit, like kind of like the same way I said, like I was when I woke up about the game. And I
Yeah.
get I it wasn't the main thing about the dream, but one of the things I remember that I had acquired, like I'd found this old little. I just happened to find this Game Boy game on the ground that I really wanted that I did not actually have at the time. When I woke up, I was like, no, you don't actually have it. Kind of like those dreams where you wake up and make a lot of money, but you don't actually have any of that money that you made in the supposed dream. I woke up and I was kind of like upset, like I was kind of heartbroken because that girl was not real, and that like I realized I was like, oh wow, that was a dream.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've ever had anything like that happen in a dream. Like I've never felt like I fell in love in a dream before, and I mean it's quite literally I guess you could say my dream girl.
Yeah.
Um, but I've honestly just never had an experience like that before. So it was a painful experience, but it was also something where I was like, wow, I don't even know what to think about this dream. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that it was tied in with that other dream that I had kind of forgotten about, but then I recognized certain elements of it, and like the tribe wasn't there anymore, but like there was this girl who like somehow knew about the same place. We ended up in the same place, and all of a sudden I ran into my family, and I'm just like, I don't like, I'm like, and church people, and I'm just like, it's just very, very weird. It was very weird and nostalgic. Like the dream was nostalgic. The people there were nostalgic. The experience was nostalgic because it's kind of been a while since I've been to a family cookout. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, it was all really interesting and strange.
It is. It is. And I think I see or feel a theme connecting the two. Um, what I was putting together in my mind as you were talking is, how do I say this as a narrative? So there's an experience from your childhood, um, and you identified it as late elementary, early middle school. Fine, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. Uh, this experience you had with a game that got that it was, but it isn't really about the game as much as the experience itself. Is what I was getting, is the idea of uh, the game, the loss of the game, the missing experience that you were denied, the thing you wanted that was lost or taken from you, and how that crystallized in your mind as a thing that came to you in your dreams. So there's, if we look at it at that kind of meta level, there's a lot of things in life where we miss out on something or something's absent that we want. And so it's no surprise that this experience that was very emotionally impactful and very solid in your memory, you'll never forget, and you know what that feeling was like, and you didn't like it, and you don't want to experience it again. Very, very reasonable that would become iconic of lost opportunities, missing experiences, things that are absent from your life that you wish were not, such as, I'd really kind of like to be in a relationship. So, instead of going into the cave and finding the game that you really wanted, this goes very much towards the Freudian wish fulfillment side of analysis, which each, not every dream, but some dreams, and this one seems to fit that mold. Is so your dream showed you what you were missing and gave it back to you, because and now you can be happy. And it's very interesting in that earlier dream that where did that take you? It took you through this cave out the other side, and caves are all often very it's the dark, unexplored, hidden, contained. It's you dive in dungeons to find treasure. So that's kind of where I'm going with that kind of a thing. And being a fantasy fan from a young age, no surprise that the idea of going into a cave and finding treasure would fit very nicely. But then the cave itself, the acquisition of the treasure wasn't the point. The treasure serves a different purpose, and where it took you to the other side was meeting this tribe that was welcoming, friendly. You spoke with them, you met the elders and whatnot. So the tribe, and I'm kind of seeing a combination of that. Like we say, let's say you're a kid and you love comic books, and one day you meet another kid and he's like, oh yeah, I got 3 or 4 other friends and we all read comics too. Why don't you come with? I found my people. We say that, you know, it's, oh, these are my people, the comic book nerds. That's great. We could talk about all the comics. You know, same with video gaming. You find your community. So that word kind of popped into my head too with all this stuff. So on the other side, you found, you know, and as a kid, what is it? You can stop me anytime I go, yeah, that's not it, you know, but there's concepts we get like, and I remember this from being a kid too, is that we think of other groups of people as different from our own current cultural settings. So we use those groups, even if it's the same, even if we have a culture, they have a culture, we have a group, they have a group, whatever. But we look at that as like, we mythologize it or some way, like, especially probably when you were a kid, when I was a kid, a lot of the stories they tell us about Native Americans are not how they all scalped each other, which they did quite frequently in America, but how we get the myth of the noble savage, where they were wiser and more connected to nature. So they would stand, even if that isn't exactly true universally. Yeah, they weren't perfect. They weren't some mythic lost perfection of mankind way back in the day. We get that image in our mind sometimes. And so what it is about, there's dots connecting that.
Because I do also,
Go ahead.
I mean, I did find out at a certain point that I have some Native American in my blood, so I'm
fair
not
enough.
exactly sure when these
My lost
started.
people, literally, yeah.
Yeah, I do, because I have it's actually pretty close. Like my great grandfather,
Oh,
my grandmother, my great grandfather on actually both sides, I think, and one of my grandmothers on another side had I got a decent amount of Native American in my blood, like
nice.
full blood Native Americans, only like a generation or two away. And
Sweet.
even though they weren't like super connected to the tribe or anything, I have kind of been trying to find out more as I get older, but I'm just kind of getting sidetracked by life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I found out like around those times when I was like in elementary school. I think maybe more around like 5th or 6th grade is when I was becoming more aware of it. Um, but yeah, I definitely kind of was aware at a certain point, definitely that I had some of that in my blood. So there was like kind of like an ancestor
Nice.
feel to it at the same time.
Definitely. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like finding a lost connection to my people, my tribe, my community, that kind of a thing. As a way of defining myself, but finding other people similar to me and understanding what that means. Who am I in this context? I was going somewhere with that too. The idea of okay, I was gonna go back a little bit further and try to just roll through that original description of the dream. So there's an interesting thing going on there too. I was on a field trip, you say. We were going somewhere and it was intended to maybe, you thought the destination was going to be just some kind of regular nature preserve or park or something to enjoy. But then you find out that there's this, a hidden, so, okay. And it's a school field trip. So why is that? So school is very often, or it's one big window into the world where we learn new things. And I would say it's not the primary one, but it's a significant one. Mostly it's our friends and the people around us as we just live our lives, that community we're in physically, the neighborhood shows us what the world is, or gives us a formative impression of what the world is. So there's a connection of school maybe standing in as a broader representation of being taught new things or introduced to new concepts, being taken places you've never been before. And if that makes sense, what you find there is the purpose was not to go to this cave, and maybe nobody even knew the cave was there, but you discovered it. So inside the context of being taught something new, being brought on a field trip to learn about the world, you discover a hidden portion of that which magically contains something missing from your life that is very important to you. In your childhood brain said, oh, that's like if I found that game again, the game that I really want. Whatever I feel is missing, it's as important to me, or it fills the hole of emptiness that I feel in relation to that game. So the game becomes a stand-in on that meta level for the idea of finding missing happiness, or finding something that some absent empty portion that you can fill with meaning, purpose, joy, just all stand in for all kinds of things. It's the best game ever, still underrated. Even to this day, you can hang on to that feeling. And you may have you played it? Did you track it down and play it? Or are you leaving that a magical mystery from the past?
I'm actually, no, I found out that later on that they had a sequel that came out, and then I haven't finished it yet, but I got an emulation for the one that they had a sequel that came out on DS, a sequel to the sequel, where all the characters had kids and the story continued. It's called Golden Sun. There's and the second one was Golden Sun Lost Age, and I'm still trying to play Golden Sun Dark Dawn now. But
does it kind of hold up, or it's man, this is still good?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I'm actually surprised how well the DS emulator works on my phone. So
very cool.
I'm doing it on using the little touchscreen that's like the DS stylus and stuff.
Well, that's nice, because sometimes you go back to that nostalgic stuff and you go, "Oh, this was really good when I was a kid, but it's not good at all." Those are so disappointing. Really okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, good.
I always wonder why people liked Final Fantasy and not this game so much, but or I always wonder why it didn't get more adaptations and more recognition, like representation and stuff like Smash Bros or whatever, because it was a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
They technically do. You can I think the Mii Sword Fighter in Smash Bros, they actually have a skin for the Mii Sword Fighter. That's one of the characters from the game. So they kind of incorporated it later on, but a lot of people don't notice it actually.
Yeah. That's a mystery to me sometimes too. Why did one game become really popular and another game that's actually better didn't? And sometimes certain things just grab people's attention, and if you have two things that are similar in the same period of time, they really just focus on one and say, okay, well, this one's the best. And individually we might disagree, but okay, so we got that going on there. So we've got all these different representations of knowledge and learning in being introduced to new things by a field trip. You don't schedule the field trip and pick the destination. They show it to you. You're being guided to knowledge, and it takes you through the cave to where you meet this. Now, this is an interesting, because we talked about, prophecy and what prophets of science fiction, that kind of thing. This was during your childhood when you had no idea you might have native blood in some degree, or did you always know that from an early age?
I'm not entirely sure. I do remember, I guess if I did know, when I first started to really take notice to it and pay attention to it was when it was mentioned to me, because my grandmother, I think it might have been in 5th grade.
Okay.
My great grandmother passed away, and I think I remember my grandmother, her daughter, telling me that on her side of the family, that we were Greek Indian or Creek Indian.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time I was a little confused with what she meant by that exactly. But then I also learned that on my dad's side, ironically enough, that they had my great grandfather was a twin, and he was a full-blood Native American, but he was also a twin. So that we had a whole nother side to our family that I wasn't really familiar with, because they had moved to a different area and they weren't living in the same state anymore. But yeah, that was basically a whole other branch of the family, because my great grandfather was a twin and they were full-blood Native Americans.
Okay. Gotcha. So you may have known of it at the time this dream was introduced, and that may be the reason for it. So why are these things related? So there's something about an educational experience that is served up to you. You're brought to learning something new. In there, you discover there's more treasure here than I thought. There's actually something very important. It's in this cave. So you go get the treasure in the cave, and it's this old game. And the process of discovering the cave, braving the darkness, the desire to explore what that's rewarded by is being given back something absent from the past, something, or discovering something that has very significant personal meaning to you. And that, for some reason, that concept of personal meaning, it's like you push through, and on the other side of that is discovering a tribe, a literal tribe of ancestors, perhaps, that gives you a connection to a community. So there's like pursuing meaning, having this meaningful outcome. Pursue, what is it? I don't know if you can find a better way to say that. Like, what is that? What is that? How do we describe that better? I don't know. Sometimes I don't have the right words.
I think that's actually a good way to put it. Like, or
Fair
like
enough,
a search
yeah.
search for meaning, or discovering lost ancestry, something like that.
Yeah.
Lost heritage or something.
And then there's it's like you actually get to meet them. It's like by seeking out something that's meaningful to you, it gives you a better connection to a lost community type of thing. You're rediscovering a connection. And there's
And I
something.
could say
Go ahead.
there's also kind of like a connection to what you were saying about like kind of how we kind of see these things in history, like these kind of caricatures or whatever, like
Yeah.
of natives and everything. And the ironic thing about like the game that I found in like the cave is that it's one of those like RPGs, turn-based RPGs. It's kind of like I said, it's really similar to like Final Fantasy. But one of the interesting things about the story is that one of the main things I that kind of drew me into it early on was that there was this thing called the Soul Sanctum very early on in the game, where like these particular I guess you could say items that were extremely important to like the state of the world were kept, and then they were like released. Um, One of the major things that kind of gets the ball rolling in the story is that you're kind of just exploring this cave with like this guy in the village who is like a scholar or whatever, right? And you're helping him discover like certain things, and then you eventually come across something that shakes up the world, and then now you have to go out on a quest, and that's basically how it all starts. So it's also like a kind of an interesting thing there, where like you start out kind of in the caves in that game, like going through like this this underground sanctum that's under like a mountain or whatever, and then
Gotcha.
you end up discovering something that you weren't necessarily supposed to or expecting to discover.
That's some meta shit. So inside the cave, inside the dream is a representation of something where there's also a journey into a cave that gets the ball rolling and takes you out into the world. That's good. That's good. Well, so what's the excuse me. What's the similarity between this one and the next one? The game has been replaced by, or the quest for the game, the satisfying reward of a game is actually changed now into not the dream girl itself, the concept of the dream girl, but a satisfying, connected, personal relationship with a girlfriend, a partner, a life partner, and an ideal one that you found in the dream attractive, interesting. You enjoyed spending time with her. There was I don't know if you mentioned, feeling like you were in love with her or something like that. Was that part of it? The cat's laying on my notes. So.
Yeah, I can't remember like enough of it to know exactly why. I do remember like that, having that feeling when I woke up though. Like I was like, wow, that was like too perfect.
Yeah. I had a dream I remember, and it was just the briefest moment from that dream. I was in the back seat of a car driving up a windy mountain road where like one side's the mountain, one side's a cliff down into a forest, and in the back seat next to me was Marilyn Monroe. And this might have been when I was way younger, and I realized for the first time in my life I'd seen her artistic nudes, and I'm like, okay, she's kind of hot. And then of course I have a dream where I'm in the back seat of a car, no driver, I could tell, and nothing else about the dream, and nothing else really happened, but I was just in the car with her. We're going to some destination together, and I'm like, lucky me. And but I do remember she's hot in this dream. So one of the few things I can remember, but that's just like not even a dream. It's hardly a dream at all. It's that snippet. So I get you on that one. But so the circumstances have changed now. There's still this element of a quest, but rather than the experience of school introducing you to this location, what brings you back is this girl, is your relationship with her. She brings you back, and you either realize, hey, this is the same place, that's the cave, and you decide to go in together, or she knew all along. The idea is that she brought you there in the same way that school brought you there. So there's some connection to expanding your mind, learning, understanding, growing, perhaps, that's represented by this relationship with this gal. And inside the cave, it's very different because the treasure's not there. The treasure's not there to be found in the same way the game was. So you're not looking for the same kind of treasure, or so you can't find the treasure you're actually looking for now in the same cave that you were in before. What am I trying to say? I think
that is basically it.
Go
Also,
ahead.
you think you could take a second?
Got it. All right, pick it up where we left off there. So I was going somewhere with that, at the idea of it isn't the girl that brought you there, it's what she represents. And of course, the treasure you're looking for, now that you're older, it's not in the cave anymore, but you still have to pass through the cave, and you get to the other side. And this is where my brain was starting to go pa with that stuff. Is like, initially when you were younger, what you found was the idea of tribal connection, of like, okay, I'm connected to these people from the past, and this is how they lived. They were a community, a tribe. And what you find this time passing through the cave is something very similar. You find the cookout with your neighbors and the church people. That is your mind's representation of your current tribe, in a way, if that makes sense. Like, these are my people.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah, it was my family, and like,
Yeah.
a lot of the church people I went to church with when I was a kid. And I don't even. And the funny thing is, my parents go to a different church now. Ironically, actually, even back then, my dad didn't really go to church with us too often. But he does more now, and him and my mom go to like a different church. But back then, we went to a specific church. We're still connected to them, actually. I still know a lot of them, but haven't seen them in a long time. They haven't even been back to that church for a while. So that was another interesting thing about it.
Yeah, and so again, comparing and contrasting in a way to the original dream, it's not like you went through the cave and said, "Oh, I wish I was Indian." I wish I was a member of this tribe. It's more the idea of finding that connection to an understanding of what it means to be a tribe, using this example. So, and again, the same way as you were mentioning, I don't really like to go out too much, and I was saying, yeah, me too. I'm like a hermit. So, but I like the idea that I have a community out there somewhere, like-minded people who share my values or care about my well-being. That's nice. But I don't really want to see people. Like, I don't go to church because I don't want to get up and leave the house and deal with people every Sunday, or have to learn their names or learn their life and their problems. I just want to be left alone to kind of think my thoughts. So that's my thing. But that doesn't mean I want to be isolated. I want to be lonely. I don't want to have no one care about me or know that I exist. I don't think any human can really tolerate that very well.
Yeah.
So if we look at them the same way, in the first dream, it wasn't like you were trying to become an Indian or join that tribe necessarily. You were looking at that. And this one too, it isn't like you're, well, maybe I shouldn't say that, but my initial thought was, it isn't like you're actually saying, I miss this and I wish I were a part of it. And then as soon as that idea popped in, I said, well, maybe you are. Maybe that's actually part of it. Maybe there's an internal struggle with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it might be because I definitely. So I guess you could say I definitely had an atheist phase that I kind of went through. So I definitely at a certain point, like I stopped going to church. I finally convinced my mom to stop forcing me to go to church, and then eventually, like I was an adult and I didn't have to go. And I never, sought it out or anything. But I did have more of I did come back to, have like kind of, I guess you could say, a religious awakening, but it didn't steer me like directly back to Christianity or anything. I definitely grew to appreciate it more and what it offered, especially as like, the older I got. Uh, Ironically enough, um, like I said, this was about like, at least a year, or almost a year after I'd you know been with my previous ex, and I'd had like another relationship after for a short while that wasn't like an official relationship, but ironically enough, my ex was an atheist, and then the girl that I was talking to after her, kicking it with, was she was raised Catholic and hadn't left that, but wasn't like super involved in it herself. So there was like there was definitely like a big change. After I wasn't with my ex anymore, I ended up back with my parents. So there's kind of a connection there to where like I ended up back with my parents, and then I ended up with talking to a girl for a while that was more aligned with kind of who I grown to be. And one of the
Mhm.
reasons that even my previous relationship started to not work out as well is because there became like more of a difference in values uh, the older I got, and as I grew out of that kind of more rebellious, I guess you could say, atheist phase, when I really started like thinking about things, and I'd say I'm more of like a deist now. I'm not like in any particular like a part of any particular belief system or anything, but I definitely shirked off a lot of the views I used to have, the ways I used to look at the world. Definitely, you could say, come home a bit more,
Yeah.
like spiritually and like physically
Yeah, that's
since then.
you see me cracking a big smile here. Like that's been my journey too. Like I went from atheist to kind of anti-theist for a while, feeling like the church is all it's all repressive and what's with these rules and whatnot. And now in my later years, I'm a little more on the deist side of things, but I'm also developed a better appreciation for Christianity in particular. The idea of now if you just like, and I think Jordan Peterson had a big effect on that. If you just look at these
Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, for me,
biblical
just for
stories
sure.
as evolutionary psychology. This is how people learned what we humans learned
Yeah,
what we are and how we function together socially. And then they wrote down the stories and passed it on and said, hey, maybe if you don't do these things, you'll have better outcomes on average than if you do these things. So
right. Yeah,
maybe some of these
exactly.
boundaries and limitations are probably for the best in general. Just, and, blew me away too. So I haven't joined a church and I probably won't, but, and I don't know that I'm going to become a Christian after not being one for, almost 50 years, but now
Yeah,
I'm definitely on that. I have a better appreciation for it. I get it now more than I did when I was a kid, which is pretty funny. Then there's a whole what is it, the prodigal son type of thing. It's like, yeah, you got to leave the house and get away from your parents' rules and go experience the world, and then eventually you probably come back and say, hey, you guys were. Your parents love hearing this. You were right about a whole bunch of stuff. So
yeah, you're right.
sorry for
Yeah,
being a little shithead when I was a kid. I've actually said that to
yeah,
my parents too, of like, I was such a handful, and they're like, you were okay. I felt like I was a holy terror and caused them endless stress. Well, there's a good thing and a bad thing to that too. It's good. Let's say you're raising, especially girls. Say you're raising two little girls, and one is the most calm and quiet and thoughtful and considerate, and she's very sensitive and cries when other people are in pain. And then you've got another girl, and she is a holy terror, and she will not do what she's told, and she won't keep her clothes clean, her Sunday dress. She'll go play in the mud puddle, and she doesn't listen to a damn thing you say. There's an irony is that the girl who's much more willful and strong headed, she's probably not going to be as likely to let other people manipulate her or get herself into trouble because she's trying to be nice, or she's not trusting her gut when a situation seems dangerous. She's going to speak up. She's a little more aggressive, assertive, in that regard, a little less agreeable. I kind of think of that, but you take that analogy
yeah,
and you say, the kids who's a little bit more of a handful, a little more willful and defiant and headstrong. She's probably going to be okay because she's not going to let people take advantage of her. The other one, better try to help her find a good husband who's also kind and is not going to take advantage of her, because she'll be vulnerable to all kinds of pleas for sympathy and compassion and manipulation. So it's different struggles for different personality types. That was completely
Yeah,
off topic.
I was definitely that type of kid. No, I mean it's actually it's kind of in line,
Okay.
I think I remember one of my old coworkers saying, when I told them I was the youngest in my family, that they were like, oh, the youngest one's always a maverick. I was like, what does that mean? I had to go look up the definition of maverick.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
even know. I kind of understood it, but like I had to go look it up, and I was like, oh, I mean, I guess that does kind of describe me. I kind of, I went out, kind of did my own thing. Also because I guess they say like parents kind of get they've been through it so many times, they kind of take more of a hands-off approach, I guess, with the
Yeah.
youngest.
Little less
And
helicoptering. Once they realize it's not that hard to keep
yeah,
them alive.
and I definitely branched off kind of a little bit more in my own way. I mean, I think me and my sister were both like, I guess generally, a little bit. We were both kind of a little rebellious, but I was probably definitely more so the one that went out and did a little bit more differently. 'Cause
Hmm.
I can definitely say my sister, as far as I know, never had an atheist phase. Um, but I
Gotcha.
also think that a lot of mine was just really having like being forced to go to church. Is what I felt like, I mean, because it kind of was, like I said, my dad didn't always go to church with us, so like, I always felt like, well, it's not like there's not anybody at home. It's like, it's not like I have to go every time. And I also think it was because of how much time we tended to spend there. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know if your parents were religious at all when you were a kid, but there's like a difference between the way Protestants do church, different Protestant sects do church, and
Oh, for
Catholics
sure.
do church. Some people just have like traditional Latin mass. It's just morning Sunday school, mass, and then everybody goes home. But in a lot of like Protestant, especially Protestant black churches,
A
they
little more
tend to be
dancing in the aisles.
yeah, they tend to be a little bit more uh like time there too as well. Like you spend like sometimes you be like there almost all day,
Yeah.
and
They
it
go from the sermon to the church potluck, and it's all, and then you're there till
yeah.
dinner time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, when you're in school especially and you only have your weekends, um that's like half your weekend right there. One
Oh,
day
for
just
sure. Yeah, yeah.
at church. So
Especially as a
that's
kid, you're
kind of how
like,
you spend it.
I just want to play my video games. Why I got to be here?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was definitely me too. Like, and then you had to go to bed early so you weren't like falling asleep. And I was always falling asleep. Like for me, I just, it doesn't matter how interested I was. Like there were times where I could like stay up, the whole service, and there was like, something interesting enough going on to where I couldn't sleep. But I'd fall asleep while the choir was singing, while the preacher was like screaming into the microphone. I'd just be like
Yeah.
doze off, no matter how much sleep I had,
Yeah, me too.
just
If I was
because like
bored, I'm out. I don't want to be here.
yeah, yeah, my body just, just I started to think I was a narcoleptic at some point. I'm just like I can sleep through anything at this
I
point.
just
Like,
normal boredom.
yeah, like
Yeah.
so
You got to tell. I
I
mean,
kind of
just
rebelled
jumping up and
because of
down and
that.
screaming is great. That's a good performance, but you got to tell an interesting story too. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who am I to give preachers advice? I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but so here's the connection that was. So as a kid, you conceptualized finding your people by a certain process, finding a community or tribe, and as an adult, you're looking at a different process. But so the thought that came to my mind was that. There's metaphors that we get as part of our culture, and one of them is diving deeper to see what's underneath. And there's cave can also can very often be that represent. You have to go into the underground place to find what is beneath the specific thing you think you're looking for, but it's really representative of something else. So it seems like what you were looking for there is it feels like you're looking for the a rewarding partnership, with a female companion. That is you want that relationship, but what's underneath it is this connection to a broader sense of belonging in a community and finding your place there. Kind of defining yourself by who am I in this context, and we use other people to tell us who we are. in a sense. Like we know on the inside, but then we get that reflection too. It's like you can't see the back of your head. You need a mirror, or you need someone else to stand behind you and say, "Does his haircut look even?" That kind of thing. Because you just can't see it with your own eyes directly in front of you. So a lot of that works psychologically too with people. Is we'll go, "Hey, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Or hey, do you think I made a mistake in that situation? Or, hey, tell me what you think of me. What do you see that I'm not seeing maybe? So we rely on other people to keep us sane and to help us understand who we are in relationship to other people. So it seems like that may have been the purpose of the original dream. And then the reason why it changed now is like you're having this conversation with yourself. Say, what's important to me? What do I want out of life? What's missing? What am I working towards? And part of it is, I want a good relationship with a good woman, and I want that to be nested in my broader spiritual beliefs and physical neighborhood community of people that I live with. That's what I'm getting. That's what's coming through to me. If that makes sense to you, or if you have a different perspective on it, am I missing things you want to enhance or alter?
That's actually like the funny thing is that like kind of explaining the dream and like kind of going through both of them. I start to like discover more the more I was like kind of going through it and explaining what it was, and I was actually kind of thinking the same thing as I told you about the dream. I'm like, well, this is actually kind of like it's kind of like the dream was telling me like what I wanted and kind of what I wanted out of a woman by like inserting all of these particular things into the dream. And even though like ironically enough, it's like the tribe I found when I was younger, and this little game I found when I was younger. It's kind of it's like I found something else, but I found it before I went to the cave, and then like she's the one who brought me back to this cave and allowed me to like kind of reintegrate into something that I had kind of lost.
Absolutely.
Which is, I mean, ironically enough, even though I'm looking for a new relationship, it's like you could say that like my previous relationship kind of ended up bringing me back towards something that I had lost, even though that relationship is like gone now. I still kind of have what I found again. Um, because I had to go back to the same place to kind of find those things again.
Oh yeah, and there's a weird thing too, and this would be great. So this is the second time you've been on the show. If you come back a third time, I'd be interested to hear what if there's a little bit of prophecy in this too. Now I don't know. That's all. So I stick with psychological side, and let's just talk about.
That's what I was hoping. Honestly,
no kidding. But the thought occurs to me, and I don't know how to explain it. And I can't predict it, but it doesn't matter. So the other half of me that says, "Ooh, what else? This mystical shit." What if this dream was also a bit prophetic? So the fantasy that played out in my head regarding your situation is, what if this dream inspires you to actually start going back to church? And not right away, but eventually through connections, you end up meeting this Middle Eastern, South Asian gal who looks a lot like the one from your dream. And she's your dream girl. And she guided you to herself through your dreams. That would be crazy. I don't know if that'll happen, but I want to hear that it did happen.
It is. I mean, ironically enough, it has somewhat kind of happened. I mean, like I don't think I'm ever gonna be like, I don't think I'm ever gonna end up being a Christian thing. And I think the only thing that's really keeping me from it is more of like a kind of a moral thing where I get the relevance of it. Like I like you were saying, like I get the kind of the psychological end to it. I even get kind of the metaphysical understanding of it because I am, like I said, I'm a deist, so it's like I do believe in God now. Like, and I actually came to that realization like logically. Like I said, when I kind of rebelled before, it wasn't even really necessarily on for any like real theological reasons. I'd kind of run across things before online that had kind of reinforced that kind of thinking in me. Like I don't know if you ever seen like Dark Matter 2525. There were a lot of videos.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
On he used to make a lot of videos on YouTube, kind of pointing out inconsistencies in the Bible and stuff like that.
I did
or
watch a
whatever.
lot of that kind of stuff when I was younger.
And that kind of stuff influenced me. And now I actually went back and forth with him on Twitter for like not too long ago, like couple years ago, around the same time I had this dream. And we definitely disagree on a lot now. But back then, like he's like a big influence on, me kind of having like some of that thinking. But there was also just a, kind of rebelling, because I was like, well, why make me go to church if I just tell guys, I don't even believe in this stuff. I mean, they even like sat me down at one point, and they asked me like, why don't you believe, and all this other stuff. They wanted to like understand. And I think, like, I mean, to this day, as much as I understand, the point of the religion and everything itself, I can't actually make myself believe the story.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
pretty
think
much
that
where
that's a
I'm at
big
too.
part of it.
I'm kind of on that
Yeah,
deist side of things, where I'm like, and it's interesting with the Bible too. I mean, this is just my own random thoughts about that stuff too. Is that there's a way in which you can say yes, it is the Word of God. So like any truth, the way, the truth, and the light, that kind of thing, could be conceived as coming directly from God, because God is truth. I mean, it's one of those things where if the universe or God reveals things to you through experience, you're like, well, now I understand a truth based on an
yeah,
experience. Is that a message from God? I think literally yes. But it isn't like hearing a voice saying, thou shalt write this in a book. It's more like
right.
here are the
Yeah,
here are the true principles we've discovered. That discovery was made possible by God, therefore God has communicated to us. So I get all that there. And there's a lot of different ways to approach this. I don't think most churches would have a problem with you coming in and saying, I'm not really a Christian, but I'm gonna hang out with you guys because this is cool. So I'll listen to the
yeah,
sermon. We'll get the stories, and I'm not here to cause a problem. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm not a believer, but you guys are cool, and I want to hang out with you. And I think there's also a part of you that thinks the best way to find a good woman who's worthy of being your partner is probably through a religious institution, because she's going to have similar
yeah.
values. Even if
And
you're
that's
a
what I was gonna
deist and
say.
she's a Christian, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I actually like the thing for me is like, and what's so weird about it for me is like there's this thing about like being equally yoked in
Mm,
Christianity, and even like Islam and other religions, where it's like they're supposed to seek out someone who has the same faith as them. So I
yeah.
also feel like if I don't join one, I'm never gonna really find someone that I'm gonna really click with.
Mm.
Because I mean, ironically enough, like I'm kind of now I want to study like all of the different like religious structures and everything.
Oh yeah.
I've done a lot of studying in like ancient Egyptian mythology, which I actually really resonate with. Like I try to find like a lot of the oldest ones I could find, like, because for me, like, it's probably where you're gonna find most of the truth. Because I know a lot of the stories kind of have spin-offs. You have Zoroastrianism and things like that, where like the kind of these ideas kind of originated from. And ironically enough, Christianity and Islam are actually pretty young, right? Compared to a lot
Relatively
of these
speaking,
other
yeah.
structures and systems. And if you find a lot of the texts and the things that these people followed, it was almost exactly the same. It was just written out and laid out differently. uh so I'm still kind of like searching for like something particular that I resonate more with. I've even been thinking about possibly getting into Buddhism, because it's more of like a secular religion that doesn't like tie itself to any particular theology, and you can have like a your own kind of theology if you want. But I think it might even be easier for me to find a partner that kind of agrees with that and lives in that kind of lifestyle, because at least it doesn't require me to be a part of a system where I don't agree with like the fundamental theology of it all, and we
Hmm.
can actually agree on like the values and the system and way of living, first and
That would
foremost.
be crazy too if you all, through going to church, not being a Christian, you actually ended up finding a girl who also goes to church and she's not a Christian either. She's like, these are just my people. I just like this community. I
Yeah,
like the way
yeah.
they do things. That would be, you'd be like, me too. What's up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
That is
mean,
awesome. I think so. I think that's the connection between these two dreams, and that's also a little more of an insight of like, where's your life going lately? What's important to you these days? What are you working towards? What's the point of doing all this work in general? Of like, just having a job and pay. It's more than just roof over your head. You got to have those basic food to eat and whatnot. But then you need a reason to live. You got a reason to keep going and what am I looking for? And maybe it's I got I got really lucky. My wife and I are both hermits, and we're both very independent people, and we're both culturally Christian, but not not believers. I mean, so many things we have in common. And the best part of our relationship is I might not see her for 24 hours. She's doing her own thing. I'm doing my own thing. Our paths don't cross. We don't have a reason to interact. We don't have rituals where we necessarily every day at the same time we meet and say hello. Or if I'm doing a particular routine, she happens to be gone. But it doesn't matter. Then when I see her the next day, I'm like, oh, what have you been up to? And she's like, oh, I did this thing and I went there and I ran to the store and met a friend on the street and went for a bike ride and all these different things. And I'm like, cool. I made videos and talk to people about their dreams, and then, but it's like neither one. It's about that match too of like do we basically have the same values, and does our hermit like what is it introverted lifestyle mesh, and it does. So it's just but I did have to meet her when I was younger by going out of the house. I mean, it's very unlikely she's gonna show up at your front door and knock and say, hi, I'm your future wife. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But and I think there's very few places that would be better. I mean, I think you're more likely to find a good girl at church than you are down at the club or any of a dozen other places that don't really connect directly to value systems in the same way. So
yeah.
Well, those are my thoughts. I don't know if you had more questions about the dream. Like, I'm happy to delve into what about this element? What do you think that means? But nothing comes to mind. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was mostly it. I do have, like I said, I got another dream we could probably talk about another time. But I think for that one, that was most of it. Like there was the definitely the most interesting part about that one was the whole like falling in love in a dream. That was the
Mm-hmm.
first time that ever happened to me. That's why I thought it was so I thought it would be interesting to talk about because
For sure.
I don't know how many other people have had that experience. I don't know, maybe like people could put like in the comments if they've had that experience before. If you ever like fell in love with like some mystery person in a dream, and you wake up and you're like, "Where is this person in my life?"
Right.
And maybe it
Yeah.
is prophetic, right? Like maybe I will actually meet this girl someday. Because like I said, I don't know exactly where we met or where this dream started. Exactly, I just know that we ended up in that same place, right? But I've had a lot of deja vu in my life. And I
I get
wouldn't be
that pretty
surprised if
regular
this,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being another one of those. Especially because recently it's been happening more where I notice it and I can like I capture it, and then when it starts to happen, I'm like, this isn't just deja vu. Like I know what this person is gonna say next, and I know what this person is gonna do next. And then like
Yeah.
once you tap into it, you realize you're almost literally having premonitions of
For
future
sure.
things to come. So
Well,
I
I've got
mean,
a like
even though I had it years ago,
the same dream.
it's,
The same person I was talking about earlier that gave me permission to use his music. Uh, he also has reported to me that he's had prophetic dreams where a week later, a week after the dream, he's in the same place with the same people. They speak exactly the same words and take the
yeah,
exact same physical motions. And I asked him, so that's not just deja vu? Because I get that. He's like, no. The feeling's completely different. So he's had both
yeah.
feelings and he knows they're different. Yeah, all I get is the deja
It's
vu
like
stuff. And
freaky because you notice it when you notice it in the middle. Deja vu is like more of oh well that happened. I was like, oh yeah, I remember like having like a dream about that happening. And I mean, and honestly, deja vu might be something else other than what we think it is. It's kind of maybe about your awareness of it all. Like when
mm-hmm.
does it actually come back to you that oh this happened before? Like I feel like it's more definitely more prophetic when it happens and you catch it in the moment or even maybe before the moment,
Oh, yeah.
like because there have been a couple times where it's like you know if you and this is why I said I've been wanting to maybe keep a dream journal because sometimes I will wake up and I'll remember a dream but I'll lose parts of that dream because I don't write them down,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on it's like I remember this dream, there's something familiar about this moment, and then later on in the day I remember exactly what was familiar about that moment because in this particular moment, I remember everything that's about to happen after this point, but I didn't remember it when I had that initial feeling. And it's
Yeah.
only because I can't remember the entire dream. I'm just remembering bits and pieces. But the bits and pieces I am remembering, once I realize it in that moment, I can probably track a lot of what's going to happen after a certain point. And
Oh yeah.
then because you live in the moment a lot of the times, even after you realize that, you might lose it because you're in the moment and you're not thinking about, oh, I know what's going to happen anymore. You're just thinking about like, oh, I noticed that. Now let me live in this moment. And you kind of forget that you probably know a lot of things that are going to happen after this. And maybe if something bad ends up happening, um you have this like gut feeling that you know what's going to happen, and you choose to do something that maybe you didn't choose to do in the dream, right? Like maybe one of those, like, kind of like warnings you might have, like kind of a
Oh yeah.
Final Destination kind of thing, where it's like, this bad thing is about to happen, let me say, like, no, I'm not going to do this. I think in a dream I did this, so I'm not going to do this, so that that bad thing doesn't happen. And maybe you even like change what would have happened in your future,
That is
you
entirely
know?
possible. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
as I say, the reason I don't get into making too many comments on the spooky woo side of supernatural side of dreams is not because I don't believe in it, because I don't know, I don't understand it. So what I was going to say to you too is, and in general to the audience, is the idea that it's nice to bring a dream to the wizard and have a conversation, and at least have a second person external to yourself give feedback, offer different perspectives, try to put some things together, and tell you a story that you maybe didn't think of on your own. That's great. Not everybody can talk to me, and not everybody needs to. The process of writing things out can often give you insights during that process, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. These connections will come to you as you're describing the dream, like you're telling it to someone else. You're telling it to the journal. On top of that, you start tracking, okay, put a little star next to something, said this felt prophetic. And then when it happens, you go back to that page and you write, and came true 10 days
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Like, and
That's why I
then,
really need to start that. Yeah.
yeah. And then what you'll get something which that I can't do for you. And also you can't even do for myself, because I don't have, I remember most of my dreams, and the ones that I've never had one come true as far as I ever know. You might even, through training yourself to be more observant, come to better identify dreams that are prophetic, and actually then start being able to plan ahead for them and make changes. And I mean, you could have a whole interesting book right there of like, here's my experience with dream prophecy and how I tracked it, how many times it happened to me, the results of that. You start getting into like, not hardcore statistics, but a little data analysis. I had 10 dreams and 8 of them came true, and here's what happened, or, and here's why I changed something to avoid a bad outcome. I would be really fascinated to hear that. You could become your own, prophetic dream expert in that. So here's how to tell the difference. Here's what it feels like, and here's how to make use of it. Bam.
Yeah.
That's something I
I can
can't do.
definitely say I've noticed some things, like, and I definitely, is one of the reasons I want to write them down so much, is because like there are certain things like, because I am kind of a hermit myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain things I never even thought I would ever get the chance to do, like certain
Mm-hmm.
things I never got the chance to do. Like I say, for the first time, I went to my first concert last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went to my first festival last year too, and then after I went to my first festival, I ended up going to like 4 more festivals the rest of the year. So like, I did a lot of stuff last year, that actually really never thought I would do. I never thought I would really go to like a music festival. Ended up going, and then ended up going to like uh more, and then on top of that, I finally ended up going to like my first concert, and did a lot of traveling that I haven't didn't really do before. It's kind of in the same place for most of my life. um and there were things that I remembered, even there, like, I think when I was in Texas, I remember specifically, and I kind of lost it when it happened. But I met this girl when I was in Texas last year, when I went to a festival, and she ended up like spending like a significant amount of, like, half of the time I was down there. She ended up spending like half of the time with me while I was down there.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't actually become like, a relationship or anything, but I remember telling her, like, I had a dream about you before I was even down here, like before any of this happened. I didn't think it was like gonna happen there, because I never thought like I would be going to a festival. I didn't think I would be gonna, I stayed in Texas for like 2 weeks at that time. I was like, I didn't think I was gonna be staying in Texas for 2 weeks,
Yeah. Yeah.
working on the road, and I was like, I wouldn't have expected to even do that, so I didn't even bother to like, take down this dream, or I'm not even sure I really even remembered much of the dream after I had it, because I didn't even think it was realistic, because you have a lot of dreams. It's just like, even if you're like lucid, or even if you remember them, you're like, this is not realistic. This is probably never ever gonna happen. That was just like, a fantasy dream or whatever. And then it happens, and you remember, like, wait a minute, I remember having a dream about this exact thing, and I never thought that this would happen. I'm in a completely like different situation I've ever been in before in my life, which is why I thought this dream was just random. But it turns out that this was actually like something that I was seeing beforehand, and then I didn't notice it until the middle of the moment. And like, she
Yeah.
thought it was just a line I said. Or, like, I had a
Right.
dream
That's what
about
I
it
was
before.
thinking
It's
too.
like,
Oh, that's
yeah.
sure
I'm
you
like,
did.
no, I'm like,
Sure
I
you did.
literally remember having this dream, and it's
Yep.
crazy because I don't remember anything else. But I'm like, you looked familiar when I first saw you because I saw you in this dream. Like, I thought I knew you, like, and that was the
Yeah.
weird thing about it.
That's crazy. And I think you'll notice more and more of those things if you start tracking them too. Cause 90% of our dreams they're gone the moment we wake up. The rest of them, they're gone within a few minutes of waking up, because you got to write them down. And then, days, months, weeks later, unless something triggers a very specific memory, we're never going to remember that dream again for our entire life. So the only way to really put it to the test is to start keeping that journal and be really diligent about it. Like, oh, I don't feel like it today. Nope, do it. If you remember something, write it down. So, well, we're pushing
I'm gonna
about
get a notebook and put it inside my bed.
yeah. Just keep it with you. Keep it on the bedside table, that kind of thing. I had one guest early on where she would do, she would use her phone or a little recorder. I don't remember which, to do a verbal description of the dream.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's one way to
too.
do it. And then, because then even if she was just going to go back to sleep, she'd be like, I was in a place and I did the thing, and then I'm going back to bed. And then, so a lot of her recordings were like that. That sleepy, just woke up
'cause
voice.
I had a couple of those this year too. This year and last year, a couple of the ones where I woke up, more this year for sure, where I woke up and then I went right back into the dream that I had just woken up from. And a couple of the times I purposely went back to sleep, even though I really didn't want to sleep much longer. I purposely went back to sleep to re-enter the dream to see if I could, and I did.
Yeah. That is something I've only heard of. Never been able to do that myself too. I think part of my fascination with dreams is there's such this broad range of experience that I've never had. I don't think I've ever had a falling dream where I, wake up before I hit the ground, that kind of thing. I've had boogeyman dreams. I don't think I've ever had a late for an appointment or late to a train dream, as the typical dreams they used to call them. I've never had a dream about being naked in public. Those all these typical dreams. I've never had it before. But that's beyond that. Never lucid dream to my knowledge. Don't have any prophetic dreams. There's a whole range of experience I've never had.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, there's definitely like a big, I guess you could say, like, distinction or chasm between like the different types of dreams that different people experience. Because I've definitely never had a falling dream or whatever. And as much as I try to remember, like, I don't think I really can't remember any time where I was like, falling and then wake up like right when I hit the ground or anything. Like, I've had dreams where I fell. Like I told you, I've had those dreams where like, I jump and I'm like, floating for like a very long time or whatever. But it's never been like a falling thing ever. At least not yet. You never know. Maybe
it could happen.
Maybe you have to be in a specific state for it to happen.
And I wonder
I
if
always wonder about that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of theories about why those dreams happen. I mean, most people have had the experience of what's called a hypnagogic jerk. So it's as you're falling asleep, you get a sudden sensation of being physically off balance. You're laying down in bed completely still, and you have the experience of losing your balance on your feet, and you jerk to try and regain your balance, and then you realize, I'm laying in bed. I was almost asleep. But that shocks you out of, because there's there's a physical sensation of losing your balance, and sometimes that comes to us.
I definitely have that when I fall asleep on my computer.
There's that too.
I fall asleep sitting up. Yeah.
Although if you're sitting up in a chair, probably you start falling over and it wakes you up. Yeah. Well, we're pushing about 2 hours here, and I think I'm going to try and mow the lawn while it's good weather out there. So you feel good to wrap it up?
Yeah, I got got some.
You got things to do too. Oh, that's right. We are up against your time limit. No, that's good. Perfect time to stop. Well, let's do this. This has been our friend Mattariii out of Ohio. He's a streamer with a focus on gaming, cultural commentary, and debate reviews. He's got all kinds of projects going on. You can find him on kick.com/Mattariii. Link in the description below, of course, and on X at @_These
You could also type in Mattariii Sensei because that's my name as well.
Yes, and I was going to spell it out as well. It's Mattariii. So play that back and write it down if you're trying to.
Yeah.
He's also got a podcast with a friend. It's Out of the Pocket Pod. And that you find that
on,
Kick at Nimbo Stratosphere.
Yeah, Nimbo Stratosphere. And we'll probably try to add a link to our Discord server, Nimbosphere, as well.
That's right. I need to get that Discord from you at the end there. So it's Discord /
it would be Nimbosphere, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Nimbosphere is where we kind of where the podcast and everything kind of spins off. So that's where we're starting from. And that's a community we're trying to build up to engage a bit more, have some like interesting dialogue, maybe even more stuff like this, you could hop in the server too. I'm sure. Some people will probably have some interesting dreams for you if you
I've been absolutely
promo channel and everything.
I will hop in there and advertise, of course. Hopefully there's a channel for that self-promotion. But also invite anyone who, hey, come on the show. You got a dream, we can make an episode. You don't have to be anybody special, just human and speak English. That's my limit.
I've been telling them about you, you'll probably have some people come with some dreams for you.
Word of mouth, that's the best advertising. But speaking of advertising, I should do my part and we'll wrap it up here. So would you kindly like, share, and subscribe? Tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. I play video games Monday through Fridays, most days of the week, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. This episode is brought to you by ABC Book 9, The Literature and Curiosity of Dreams, Volume 2, part of a 2-volume set out of 1865. Fascinating historical literature, of course. All this and more at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com, including downloadable MP3s of this very podcast. And one of the best ways to reach out to me if you have a dream to share is also at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.locals.com. It's free to join, attached to my Rumble account. And that's enough of that. So, Tari, thank you for being here. Good to talk to you again. Good to catch up after not having seen you for a couple of years.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. We should game together sometime too. Maybe we could do like a dual stream.
Oh yeah, I'm down with that too. Any kind of co-op game. I love what is it? Left 4 Dead, but I also love what's that other one? Son of a bitch. It's the 7 Days to Die. I love that too. Another zombie game. Nice. And I just bought one recently that is I haven't played yet. It's called Deep Rock Galactic. You play the dwarves.
Deep Rock Galactic.
You land on a planet and you're dwarves and you go down mining and there's creatures in there and you got to shoot the creatures and mine and it's a multiplayer online. I haven't even fired it up
really
once.
Interesting.
That Deep Rock Galactic. But if you play on Steam, look for a sale. I think I got it for like $20.
Yeah, I'll look for it. It sounds nice.
Deep Rock Galactic. A little shout out to Diggy Dwarves. I love it. I love the idea of playing dwarves and digging for gold and you're on alien planets and it's all good stuff. Okay, we're gonna get off on a whole new tangent here. So I'm just gonna say thank you to our guest Mattariii and everybody out there. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.